Hello and welcome. This is our special edition, and in this edition we are going to discuss about the inauguration of Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, and Yadessa Bojia, artist and designer, is joining me from Seattle, America. Hello Yadessa, and welcome to OBN Horn of Africa.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me. I'm always happy to be here. And also I just wanted to say Happy New Year to all the OBN viewers. It's really great to discuss these great accomplishments in Africa.
Thank you very much. And let me start with this, you feeling about the inauguration of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. And what do you think about Ethiopia's energy independence in this regard?
Well, basically, my feelings are a twofold feeling. The first one is basically as a person who was born here there in Ethiopia and also lived not far from Finfinne, which is 100 kilometers away. It's a small city called Asgori. We still have a house there, and we still don't have a power in that house and never have a power. And my parents lived in that house without a power. And so having a power and a light in that area is symbolic for me as a person, because it shows that basically all these things that we're deprived from, now we have an answer for it, and that answer comes from our own effort. And so because of that, I'm really happy. And the second thing, as an African, I am really grateful because for the first time, we have the blueprint for how we can actually imagine, plan, and produce and protect and inaugurate something like a master project like that. GERD, which is Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, is one of the largest projects in Africa. And it is actually quite an accomplishment for the government, for the people, for the engineers, for politicians, diplomats, and individual people, an ordinary person who contribute money or supported the idea. It is actually a great accomplishment, and I think a lot of African countries will take a pride.
How do you also see the role of GERD in helping Ethiopia achieve United Nations Sustainable Development Goals?
Well, basically, having a power independence, energy independence, will open a door for a lot of great accomplishments, even for the country. Because, first of all, we're going to be ending a power shortage. Just like I described earlier, having that means independent people, like ordinary people, can get power, and that power helping saving energy, saving life, saving the environment, and also having a better perspective in life and a better lifestyle can be developed. And that is actually one of the goals of United Nations to begin with, is trying to create a better life for people, whoever they live in the world. And this actually extends that to Ethiopian people. And the second thing is, Ethiopia also can benefit by creating a revenue from Ethiopian power sharing and selling powers. And that also helps Ethiopia prepare to solve some of the shortages through healthcare, road management, power, energy, and all those things, because Ethiopia now have a money. Instead of being a country that used to be helped, now can help itself and also help others. So in that extension, it actually really fulfilled a lot of the United Nations goal. And the third thing I want to point out is about the major impact for the environment that this energy will do. GERD make the energy available to ordinary people, so people not going to cut the trees. And so the green revolution that started in the country right now by the Prime Minister, and then also grew to be billions of trees, also can be preserved because people have energy resources that they can use. So it's actually really benefits, and there's a lot of pluses that comes with this inauguration.
As you are a Pan-Africanist, Yadessa, let me forward this question. Many Africans describe this GERD as a Pan-African project, and what do you see on this?
It's clearly not Pan-African project, because if you really see the African Union 2063 goal, one of the most important agendas in that is creating a prosperous Africa. So if you create a prosperous, if you want to create a prosperous Africa, you have to have your energy, You have to have your own power. You have to create jobs. You have to create inclusive and growth and sustainable energy. And that is actually one of the Pan-Africanist movements really goals. And also an integrated continent, which is politically united and based on Pan-Africanism, is one of the goals of African Union Agenda 2063. And also, when you have basically self-sustainability, self-reliance, that means it creates a better democracy, a better respect for humanity. And although, for example, you have a lesser war because countries who don't have energy and money and prosperity do not go through a lot of clashes. Usually, fighting for resources creates war. So, and also peaceful and secure Africa can be created from that. So that's how I see it. As a Pan-Africanist, every checkbox that we have for an Africa to be self-sustainable and Pan-Africanist ideas, this project clearly supports that. And it's really, that's why I'm really inspired and I'm excited about all that.
How do you also, how these Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam positively impact regional integration and stability in East Africa?
Well, that's a very, very important question. Basically, for example, countries like Kenya and Djibouti can get a cheap energy to buy from Ethiopia, and that makes them help their economy and creates a lot of agro-processing and plants and things like that for them. So, and then countries like Sudan, for example, even if can actually get a water share, if there is a drought and things like that, Ethiopia can contribute water to, there is a reserve for them. So this kind of sharing of energy and power and actually make these areas relationship a better relationship. So that's how I see it. This GERD being a part of creating harmony and unity in these Horn of African countries, especially in the Nile Basin countries.
Good, and ensuring sustainable development and energy independence across the continent is one of the elements of the Agenda 2063 of the African Union. And what do you say that GERD will contribute to this agenda?
Like I mentioned earlier, GERD will create basically a prosperous Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. So GERD, for example, will we spend a lot of money buying energy. We spend a lot of money buying foreign oil, foreign gas. We spend a lot of money and we end up being in debt. We're getting all these things. But now when we actually be the owners of that, it will relieve a lot of the funds for us to have a better lifestyle, better agriculture, better industrial complexes, better living standards, which actually the goals of the African 2063 agenda. I remember being a part of the Agenda 2063 writing. My contribution at that time was through art. And one thing we talked about is actually how Africans actually control their own art and style and things like that. I know it's not related with this one, but the reason why I mention it is because one of the most important parts of 2063 is making sure Africans will decide and make the important decision about themselves through their own means, but not by other countries interfering in African problems, African cases. So that's one of the way I'm seeing Agenda 2063 will benefit from GERD. It's basically an African with good governance, democracy, and request for human rights, justice, and rule of law is also what actually benefits Agenda 2063. All of these things I talked about, even if they don't seem like directly related to energy production, but when you have, like I explained earlier, when you have better energy and better economy, you have a better chance in building democracy and peace in your country. So that's how it benefits it.
What lessons also other African nations and even the world learn from Ethiopia, especially in mobilizing the local people and particularly in using internal capacity in terms of finance, Yadessa?
I already talked about this in a detail in another video, but simply explaining it, one of the biggest achievement of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam is the fact that it is actually planned, worked on, and executed in Africa by Africans, and also financed by Africans. So that actually bring a big idea to Africa, which is Africans can do things like this. They can actually do and accomplish a large projects. Africa is a very rich continent, and we actually can benefit the continent by working together and making sure that our countries in Africa can dream big and achieve it by working together in harmony and in respect to each other, and also changing their countrymen's life. So basically, one example I can give you with this: when the Grand Renaissance Dam was planned, a lot of Western countries, a lot of powerful countries with a lot of money, say that they cannot, fund it because they don't want the way it's going. But Ethiopia decided to fund it itself. Ordinary people funded this project. That is a big lesson to a lot of African countries who are actually sitting in a World Bank and other places right now trying to get funded for big projects. They can actually look into themselves because they have a great example like the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, funding it themselves by selling bonds, by making the people be a partner in this big project. And the second thing is actually the biggest win, also the diplomatic part of the battle. Like most time, when Africans are trying to go into these big projects, there is always the international laws that tangle these kind of things, so they cannot continue to do the projects. But Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam showed that our diplomats can actually go and sit with them and trying to argue their points, and sometimes trying to convince the world. And then throughout these multiple years, probably 2 or 3 decades of continuous diplomacy, the dam is protected and actually inaugurated. So that also tells African countries that they can actually fight for their cause. And throughout the in the roundtable discussions, they complete their cases, and they can actually train their diplomats in the same model, so they can actually present their cases in international stage. So I see a lot of different opportunities that Africans can see from it. And the other thing is, now that when the Africans see that Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam actually creates resources and revenues for the country, it makes them build other things. So we're not only asking for aid from the world, we actually generate our own money one day trying to help other countries when they are in a problem, because this is not a competition against other countries, about standing on your own 2 feet and helping your fellow citizens get a better life. And Ethiopia has clearly shown.
Thank you for your explanation. As a Pan-Africanist, Yadessa, what do you advise Africans to get rid of all colonial era agreements and treatments which favors one and hurts the other?
Well, that is the biggest challenge for African Union, which represent African countries. So some of the outdated deals that's signed in colonial era, even before that, are still what is dangled into their countries. And I think that's what I tried to explain earlier. The diplomats need to study how the GERD diplomacy was done, and even borrow some of the diplomats that actually went out and did this great presentation to the world, and then using that as a sample to fight against old era signatories that actually end up being a bottleneck in African growth. So we are not advising, I don't advise countries to be completely denying past commitments. But at the same time, those commitments have to be fair, they have to be up to date, and they have to look like what the continent is looking like. For example, in Ethiopia, they used to tell us that we cannot build this water while we are starving. We actually given our water to neighboring countries while we are starving, and that is not a fair deal. So we need to actually explain what kind of negative effect it have on African countries, and then trying to devalue those past agreements by showing how unfair they are in the international world.
As you know, electricity is a huge problem in the continent, in Africa, and unless there is, this infrastructure is there, it is very difficult to invite foreign direct investors or FDI. And what do you say about this in relation with that, enhancing Ethiopia's potential in inviting FDI?
I think you say that in your question. Basically, reliable power always is good for factories and take parts and agro industry plants and small industries, right? So all of these will help us bring investors to come and work in our industrial parks. If the investors come and they don't have even power, they choose countries with have a power. But Ethiopia right now have all the necessary elements. We have a manpower because we have the youngest generation that's ready to work, and we have amazing land. When we have now energy provided, and also we have great industrial parks. So these attracts a lot of investors. I think what we need to do, and what we are really importantly have to be vigilant about, is trying to keep the country's peace. And that also is one of the most important caveat in order to attract foreign investors and create jobs for our fellow citizens. So it's very important to have this energy, and the energy is really one of the most important components in bringing these investors to our shores.
And let me add, as we are concluding, let me add also this question, Yadessa. What motivational factors do you think drive Ethiopian government and even the country to pursue other mega projects inspired by the completion of Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam and also public support?
Well, I remember last year when I was back home, I was asked an interview, and one of the things that I said, they were asking me about the corridor development, for example. So one of the things I told people was, it's not just the corridor development that is really impressive. It is more than that, the idea that we can do this, because showing it, building it, and then people actually enjoying it is a different thing. Like, we always wished to have power dams to be built in Ethiopia, but now it's different because we actually have it. And when people see a real change happening in front of them, when they actually walk on the sidewalks and then bike on the roads, and the streets are more cleaner and beautiful, eventually it will convince people to do big things. So Ethiopian government, I don't think right now needs a lot of advice in doing great things, because they're too busy doing a lot of amazing projects. But also, my thing is, like, my hope is the GERD will show to dare more big projects, to go and to do big projects. And I heard the Prime Minister give an interview saying the exact thing. He said, like, this will actually make us even feel to go do more projects, more bigger projects. So yes, and I agree with that. And I agree with going after big dreams, and we keep on do unthinkable things, and that's how we change the century-long tale on Ethiopia. The century-long tale in Ethiopia is a poor country. Ethiopia cannot feed itself. Ethiopia is the sign of drought around the world. We're changing that right now, and it needs a lot of work, and it's being done. Right now, Ethiopia is going to be known for a country that defeated poverty, a country that defeated the mentality of not able to do things, because now we're doing things. And that mentality is what instilled in children and kids right now, so they can be building the next big hydro project. They can be building the next big railways. They can be building big streets and roads and dream big and achieve it. Years ago, I was writing a letter for kids, and I told them to dream big and to work to achieve it. Because if you dream big and work to achieve it, then nothing can stop in front of you. I think this idea of working and achieving big things will convince us to love each other, to be peaceful, and to accomplish something, because our work will change our life and our children's life even better, because these kind of projects are the green light, and they are also inspiring. So I know the government is working on a lot of different projects. I would just encourage them to dream even bigger and work on it. And I think they are already doing that.
And thank you very much. And let us also relate the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam completion to the unemployment, and it will create many job opportunities for the citizens, particularly for the youth. And what do you say on these? What opportunities will it bring for Ethiopian?
Well, just like you said, when we talked about how our industrial parks and our investors can come to create more jobs, right? We already talked about this energy will attract a lot of foreign investments, and that means job for young people. And I know there is unemployment right now. Maybe we'll have higher unemployment. I'm not sure what the numbers are, but there is always there is weeping and crying in the night, but there is always joy in the morning. So we can have that joy if you keep on working on it. People will get hired. Their lifestyle will change. But the only thing that we cannot do or afford right now is to sit and dream about it. We have to actually work on it. And we know there are people that lived in that desert while they're building GERD. We know that young male and female Ethiopians who actually died while they're working on the dam. We have an example. We have a role model to follow. They did it so we can live a better life. So we have to do so our kids will live a better life. So that's what I would say to the young people, to be patient and also work hard and change the country. And it's changing, but work even more so it can get better.
By the way, have you visited the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam?
I am looking forward to do it this year if God help.
And finally, if you have any message to my audience, you are welcome.
All I'm trying to say is this. When I came to Ethiopia and visit, especially I went to areas in Oromia and places like that, we are actually sitting in a gold mine. We are living in the most beautiful land in the world. So I think it's time for us to put our hands in that soil and be the beneficiary of the land. But that's only come when we work and when we actually live in peace and harmony with others. Because that's how life at sea will change for all of us, is when we actually use our God-given talent, because everyone comes with different talent. I came as an artist. You came as a journalist. Maybe the viewer right now is a sports person. Everyone have a talent, but when we all share our talent to build a better world, our tomorrow is going to be much better than today. So my hope is to focus on peace and love and harmony and work to change you tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Yadessa Bojia, artist, designer, Pan-Africanist, and our partner, our usual partner. Thank you very much for your insight and for your time as well.
Thank you very much. I'm so appreciative for having doing this interview and also for your patience. I really admire the staff in there, and I hope to come and see you guys in person very soon. I was in that studio in the past, so I love you guys. Stay safe. Galatoma.
Dear viewers of OBN Horn of Africa, I think you have got some very important insight from this interview, and this is all about our discussion for today. Until next time, goodbye.